An exciting round here again. First oval of the season, first time we get to look at these guys just turning left. Total 85 laps on the docket today at this 2/3 mile circuit. My name is Jonathan Burke. Alongside me is Tom Davis. Tyler Maxon is down in the production booth as well, providing some of the in-car cams and the regular cams provided by Istvan Bralo and Track Cams 22. And Tom, quickly as qualifying is underway here, what are your kind of expectations for this first oval race of the season?
The oval races in these cars are generally incredible. We'll see multi-car battles throughout the field, including for the lead is the anticipation. And just had my eye on Oisin Walsh. He's won 4 from 4 so far this week, so he's certainly the man to beat, but with a field as stacked as we get every single week in the broadcasted race, I wouldn't be surprised if they can take into it.
Not only Oisin Walsh, who is a normal oval regular on the series, we've seen him all last season compete in all 3 ovals. Alan Bellicino as well competing in ovals this week. He's the 3rd highest rated driver, 5 wins out of his 6 starts. Andreas Eek as well, the Norwegian driver, making several starts. He's also an oval regular. So we have 3 really good oval drivers, but then we have some quiet ones down there. Some of the usual, Servi Seppa, Andrew Barry, Frank Nguyen, and Pierre Boudon that might be able to make some noise here if there's any chaos or anything that goes on.
Yeah, I think we mention it near enough every single week now, but if there's a chaotic race, if people are crashing every now and again, there's side-by-side action, Frank Nguyen will just sit there around about 5th, 6th, 7th until the last few laps, and suddenly he'll be on the podium. And so if you can pull off that kind of race, if that goes to your skill set, this is the perfect sort of round to do it at with the ovals, because tires do come into it, keeping your front wing intact comes into it, and those guys are perfect fit for that.
So a little bit of a reminder of how oval racing works in the Pro 2000 Championship. We do get our regular double file rolling start. However, cautions are enabled and laps do count, and there will be single file restarts. Now, typically we see about 2 or 3 cautions per top split in the week. That's what we've kind of seen throughout the week based on our data, but there has been some crazy races, and with a split like this where we have a lot of good drivers and a lot of good talent, it can be either a very clean race or it can be a very messy race.
And that's often decided right at the start, isn't it? You know, if people just kind of come into the race slow and settle, they know that they've got a long way to go, then we'll see it be a clean race, maybe a couple cautions, but nothing too mental. If they come out and are immediately sending down the inside, forcing each other wide and up high, then the tensions go up, the attitude can become a little bit more aggressive, shall we say, and before you know it, then we're in one of those chaotic events where you have no idea what's going to happen next.
And also just based on the track temperatures and how this track runs, it's kind of a single groove-ish track, but that upper middle groove can get going. 23 degrees Celsius, a beautiful night here in Iowa, running under the lights, in my humble opinion, as it should be out here in the Midwest. Always a nighttime short track racing type of thing. When Indy cars ran here at night, it was a spectacle to behold. And same as well with the NASCAR series. This race track hosts many. It's hosted Pro Monster in real life, and unfortunately this year left off the calendar, but at least we get it here in iRacing. We're going to be in for a fun show.
As ever. I mean, nobody ever complains about racing under the lights. You look at Qatar, MotoGP, Bahrain, Singapore, they're all fantastic to look at, and this one should be no different.
So qualifying has ended, and it looks like we're going to get our starting lineup here in just a few moments' time, and here it is. Oisin Walsh, the Irish driver, is number 1 in P1. Alan Bellicino alongside him in P2, Andreas Eek in P3. Those are the 3 guys we're going to watch all throughout the race, but Frank Nguyen in the number 11 in P4, Everett Paddock in P5, and Andrew Barry in P6. Chandler Pellerito from Michigan is in P7, Jared Turball in P8. The Finnish Servi Seppa is in P9, Simon Fell rounding out the top 10. Nicholas Sudik from Ohio in P11, and Julian Pastor in P12. Theodore Burns is number 6 in 13th, probably not where he wants, and neither is Mitchell Heiler, moving up in the field from number 17 into P14. Aaron Roofs, we saw him be a factor last season in these oval races. Can he be a factor starting from 15th? Pierre Boudon in 16th. Sean Ryan in 17th, and Jordan Ward in 18th. Nicholas Anderson in P19, Jeffrey Kunksfield in P20. The TNT Racing driver Thomas Zeiger all the way in the back in 21st. He's going to have some time to make up. And Lucas Inkammer did not qualify, but will round out our field of 22. A little bit of a side note here, there's 5 drivers in this session from Illinois, and as a person from Illinois, that makes me a little happy. It's close to home racetrack.
Yeah, but I'm of course from that UK Ireland region as far as iRacing is concerned, and we've got Paul, so you've not beaten this side of the pond quite yet, even though we're doing your event as such. The oval racing is very much where we tend to see the Americans come through.
Hear those cars rolling away right now, and it's going to be interesting to see like how this start plays out, really what lines are going to take and how fast these tires are going to degrade. There's a lot of factors, I think, that are going to go into this race in determining where you're going to finish.
Yeah, we spoke about it just for a moment, but when you're always turning, as you often are on these ovals, and particularly in that one direction, we'll see understeer creep in. And as the understeer creeps in, you start to work the rear tires a little bit more, and then you'll have oversteer moments, and that's when we see the mistakes. Time and time again, we've seen people just step over the limit, all the tires are already gone, so they stand no chance in correcting it, and suddenly they're in the top wall, and that's game over. So there is some element of resource management, making sure your car's in check, everything's good to go, but at the same time, they'll want to lead from the front, and they'll be pushing all the way, we can assure you.
The other major concern is going to be the draft. Down the front straightaway, due to the banking and the curved nature of this track, might not be as viable, but definitely on that backstretch heading into turn 3, we're going to see, I think, a few dive bombs and maybe some aggressive blocking as well.
I hope so. I hope so. Everyone knows that I love a good bit of aggressive racing. So if we see a little bit of that, I'll be happy. You'll hear me giggling and kind of gasping in the background of the commentary.
Yeah, it's always interesting and intense when the Indy cars take to Iowa. We've had several moments, including drivers giving each other maybe not some nice gestures out the window along the back straightaway, and thankfully in the virtual world we can't see any of that, so hopefully everything stays clean. The pace cars rounding out turns 3 and 4. Ulcine Walsh, the Ireland native, is going to lead the field of 22 to the green, and we're green from the fields of Iowa, and it looks like the number 1 car, a clean start. But Lincino, however, right with them as they head down to the turn 1, the top 3 single file out. Newen hanging on the outside of Everett Paddock for the moment. It looks like the rest of the top 5 is trying to sort themselves out and get them in a prime position.
Great start from Walsh. Already Newen's been left up high and wide. There's the 12 car of Paddock trying to get involved, but doesn't get the speed off the corner, and he might actually lose out to Andrew L. Berry. That's the green number 7 car, and he actually does. Wonderful driving from Berry just to tuck into Newen's slipstream. He gains position, and they'll sail off after the podium. It's right there. Andreas Eakin, the 2, is 3rd position.
Looking like a Jared Turnbull passing the Finnish driver Serbi Sepä for 8th, excuse me. As we complete 2 laps and we quickly single filed ourselves out trying to find a place calm. And you're right, Newen stuck on that outside, not good, because there comes Barry, and then here comes Paddock in the TNT machine on the inside. There's just not enough speed up there to really maintain your spot.
No, and once you're up there, often we'd say it's like an oval race. It is an oval race. You just cannot get back in because car after car after car forces you high and wide, and before you know it, 1 position loss has turned into 3 or 4. There's
Barry sideways, and right in front of him, and the 7 and the 11 collide hard on the exit of turn 2, and we're under caution.
You could see it coming, couldn't you? Barry was pushing, trying to get onto the back of that podium group, and didn't quite work out for him. Lost the rears, slid out, and before he could have any chance to catch it, Newen was into the side of him, and they're both out of this one.
Yeah, I saw the smoke, and I was wondering if that was maybe a little bit of a technical issue up front, if someone just blinked for a second, and that's where the smoke came from, and then lo and behold, well, there was the 7 car, and then right into the 11. I have the YouTube stream up as well, and that was just playing on my stream, and it's a vicious impact for both drivers. Long, lengthy repairs are going to be needed.
Stuff like that, it's when we're glad we're in the virtual world, I would say, because that would be very, very scary in real life. A little bit fortunate potentially for Team Walsh, but we'll get to that, because here's a replay. Barry, he's just carried too much speed, loses the rear, and like we say, before he has any chance to put in a correction, you'll see Newen come along. So there he goes, turning, rear goes, starts to turn the opposite way, but too much drift. He then goes into Newen, who'd been forced high and wide, and ended up being even worse than the few positions we thought he was going to lose.
And Newen really had nowhere to go, honestly, because he's on that outside line. And these cars do have a decent amount of downforce, but not as much as, say, an Indy car or even a Formula 3 car. So, like, jerking it in a sudden way, that 11 car is going to go around either way. So it was a tough spot, and there's just nowhere to do. You can slam on the brakes, but you're going to go around as well.
Yeah, he slams on the brakes, he's going to lose the rear because you change where the center of mass is. You put a sharp steering input is, all that's going to happen is you're going to spin it round. You're not actually going to turn the car, and you'll end up with contact anyway. So Ewan in sort of the impossible position where he was just always going to be out. And I bet he'll have known that. Those couple milliseconds before he hit Barry will have passed in slow motion as he just saw himself getting closer and closer.
So under caution for the first time today, it looks like only Jeffrey Kongsfield in the 16 down pit road. Remember, you can come down pit road and get fresh tires. There is no tire limit in the field. You should be able to make it on full fuel. So there's no need for pit stops, but obviously fresh rubber, and we've seen it in past oval races last season. Fresh rubber can be an advantage, especially late on in the race.
We've ended up in strange spots, particularly last season, whereby one of the leaders would end up caught up in an incident. They'd come in to fix the damage. In doing so, would put fresh tires on. They'd be back in the field, but come a few laps later, they'd actually be in the lead hunt again. So there are multiple ways to get to the front of this race. It's just how daring you want to be, because obviously the spot that makes you feel comfortable is at the front the whole time. You don't have to make the overtakes, you don't have to put yourself in dangerous positions, but leading at the front, not necessarily actually the quickest way of completing the race.
Now, I'm thinking about kind of the wear of the fuel and wear of tires as well. When you're out front, there's no draft really to help you, and you're just kind of all alone. So a lot of the tires are doing some of that work in the corners. But then if you're using the draft, you get a bit of a better run out of the corners, but then you're also in risk of running into the wall. It's a really fine line of where you kind of want to be in the race, especially as we move later on. Your positioning in the draft line and even in the field is going to matter a lot.
The other thing to take into account is we've had one caution. We're expecting 2 to 3, potentially more. You're trying to time it so that you push after the final caution. The difficult part being, we don't know when that's going to be, and neither do the drivers as the safety car lights go out.
So a reminder again, single file restarts, so you're going to see Walsh try and go up all the way to the outside wall, making sure no one's going to get around him on the outside to get a big jump on him. Valancino and Ike are the two right behind him. Everett Paddock now moves up into P4, seeing Nguyen and Barry collide. And Pellerito is now in 5th place as we see the pace car come in. Green flag is back in the air. And immediately Valancino tried to look for the inside, but just does not have enough of a run into turn 1 to make it stick. There you see the two leaders. And the field for the moment looks like stays single file.
Valancino, just before that caution period, was really quick. He was beginning to hound Oshimos just a little bit. He'll look to continue that straight away. The question is, can P3, P4, P5, the entire rest of the field come with them? Because last time, they got dropped despite a little bit of a fight at the front.
You can even see it right now. It looks like he's struggling a little bit. He's lost touch with Valancino just a tad. As now we look back, here's an interesting fight. This is the number 12, number 4, and then there's the 10 of Julian Pastor in the middle. Sideways with Sudik coming out of turn 4. He might be able to hold the position. That's Pierre Bourdon on the outside as well, almost 3 wide. His 10 car looks like it's struggling a lot for grip.
Yeah, Bourdon's the one to take advantage there. That 10 car is really, really struggling. Bourdon was able to nab by one on the high side. Now he's managed to come back underneath Sudik, and that's 2 places in just about as many corners for him if he can hold on to it. Sudik, he's on the high line, but that means he carries the speed, but he's not quite going to have enough of it to pull him back alongside, and in the end, it's a fantastic move for Bourdon because he's immediately onto the 2 cars ahead of him as well. He's really got to shuffle up.
And this is where like the most exciting and the most momentous part of the race can happen, is in this midfield. And when you're in a rhythm and you get the draft and you just time out every move, you can feel unstoppable. And I think that's what this 21 car feels right now. He's going to get a huge run out of turn 2, and that's Simon Fell right ahead of him. But Fell has at least a decent draft on the backside of Michael Holler, so he's got some protection. But the way that 21 coming out of the corner, that's almost beautiful flowing move from Pierre Bourdon. He's going to look to the inside. 15 giving him plenty of space. Good respectful racing from these drivers. They're going to remain side by side. And here's the tough thing as well, is that you get the draft, on the bottom side when you're in the corners from the car in front of you, as we have another caution. It looks like we don't really know what this caution is. I think we mentioned the 10 falling backwards. I have on my timing screen that he has entered the pits, as has the 16 of Kongsfield. So I'm wondering if it's those two involved.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, the 16 was involved.
Yeah, you could see that happening, couldn't you? I think all of those drivers thought they were in a two-way fight. So when they all squeezed into each other and realized there was 3 cars there was always going to be at least one of them that ended up being left out of the remainder of the race.
I think Aaron Roos was also the innocent bystander there. He saw someone moving up in front of him, and it's like, well, I really have nowhere to go. And again, that's a shame for Aaron Roos. Again, he was a big factor last season in the first oval race, and now he's going to have to come into the pits for some lengthy repairs.
Yeah, and a tale of what could have been for Aaron Roos, because like you say, he was caught out of no fault of his own there. He was just running his line through the corner, and both the other guys were focused on each other, kind of forgot that he was there in a way, and I guess you could say if he'd been more aggressive, more involved in that battle, maybe a little defensive, then maybe it wouldn't have happened. But he was just trying to mind his own business, and it turned out to be the worst possible moment to do so.
Yeah, and it's instances like that that can be a problem, especially in that midfield. As aforementioned, you can get huge runs with all that draft in front of you, and again, you'll feel like unstoppable, especially if you get into that rhythm. And I think that was just a opportunistic move from the 16 of Kongsfield, who's now on pit road for lengthy repairs. Roofs is also on pit road. Barry has retired from the race in the number 7. Frank Newen's still getting repairs, and Julian Pastor, we saw going backwards for quite some time, has also parked and retired the machine. So we have 17 cars in the lead lap, 3 getting repairs for our second caution of the day, with about 69 laps remaining in this one.
The strange thing about all this is that we've been talking about Walsh and Balacino fighting and yet still breaking away, but suddenly you look down at our timing screens, it's actually Eek that has the best lap so far. Now obviously at Oval it is by hundredths of a second we're talking, but he set a 21.507 to go quicker than anybody, so he clearly has the pace on a 1-by-1 basis. It's just if he can put it together for a number of laps in a row.
And the thing we also have to keep in mind is that tire fall off. It's not going to be as extreme as you see maybe if you're in Iowa during the day. Again, we're under the lights. The sun is almost completely set in the background of turn 4. But it's going to be a concern of how these cars are going to handle late. You know, we saw that play a factor in Phoenix, I believe, last season, where Walsh and Eek both had issues, actually, and crashed out of that one. And again, we're going to go back to Phoenix at the end of this, no, midway through the season. USA Speedway is the last one of the season, but it's here, Phoenix, and then USA Speedway that are 3 ovals, and they have to know that it's going to be that long-run pace that matters.
It is. These caution periods will help the guys in terms of maintaining the tires. Obviously, it's less laps at racing speed, so less time to ruin your tires, less time to use up the rubber. So in a way, the more cautions we have, the better it is to be at the front rather than having to have to change your tires part of the way through. But obviously all the guys are all the time just being vigilant of it, trying to manage one factor whilst not losing out too much on the other.
So still under the pace car lights, as we're under the lights here in Iowa. We've seen Walsh, the Dublin native, has led every single lap so far. Alan Balacino's put a lot of pressure on him, and Andreas Sieg has been lurking in that 3rd position. Everett Paddock for TNT Racing is currently in 4th, and Chandler Pilarizio is in 5th as the lights go out on the pace car, and we're going to get a nice restart here. And you know, for those that usually view on a week-by-week basis, this is kind of a big lineup change. As normally we'll be seeing Christoph Herbigno, Delta Sport driver, a bunch of TNT, a bunch of Rust Racing drivers as well towards the front. But this week, a little bit different. We got the oval regulars out here, and I think it's a good week for them to pick up some points in the iRacing Championship, but it's also a good week for really to show their stuff.
Normally we'd be saying it's a good week for Frank Newen, sort of the jack of all trades, but obviously he got taken out very early on, so a shame for him. But obviously you got to be looking at the other people in that guys. Your Servais Seppa is the name that comes to mind. The people who are really good on the road, but they're not so bad on the oval either. And if they can pick up a few points, it could be huge in the long run.
So the pace car dives down to pit road, and Walsh gets underway. Really good jump on the start to try and stack the field up, and is anyone going to take an opportunity? No. Top 5 stays single file. Walsh leads them in. Valancino remains in second, and Eek is now on the right gearbox of the number 3 machine. Can Paddock or Polizio make a move? Eek has to look to the outside. He doesn't want that draft right behind. That's also another thing. You can't get too close in these corners. You're going to lose that air off that front wing, and you're going to get super aero tight.
Yeah, and it's not even so much what happens right now, but if you're running in the draft, you have to turn the wheel more because you've lost that air. A lovely battle back here between the 13 and, well, we would say, but he's already trying to leave the 9 behind, is Pellerito. Fantastic move. That's late coming in from Turnbull, though, trying to get the position back in another caution period.
It appears it's for Jordan Ward, the 19 machine, as he's the one on the timing screen. As we are now back underneath the pace car for the 3rd time today. And we're going to let the pace car pass the field, as the field was very fast. And here is the replay. Almost identical to that first caution.
Yeah, except this time there was nobody on the outside to collect, but this is what we're seeing. If you work the front tires, you put yourself in a position where you need to start to understeer the car on purpose, and as soon as you're doing that, you're just waiting for the rear end to give in, and you got no chance of catching it, because the fronts don't have the grip to pull them back into line. The rears have already gone. As a result, you end up in a spot like that where you're just drifting, and then you're in the wall.
Yeah, again, we've seen that on 2 of our 3 cautions, that just rear end coming out. And it is hard to catch, and that's something that I've experienced when I've run this series as well, is that, like, it is a twitchy car. It doesn't have a lot of aero, as, say, an Indy car, and we've mentioned that already, but it has enough to keep it to the ground. But if you do a sudden movement, especially in the corner, where you lose a lot of that, that downforce, when you lose a lot of that weight on the banking, it is very hard to correct and really fix.
It is, because the thing with cars that have aero but not a whole bunch of it is that they need to use all of it all the time to get to their maximum performance. So the moment you make a sudden movement or put the weight in a funny position, you'll stall some amount of that aero. You don't have all the grip, and there is no way of getting it back because the cars are always on the limit no matter what speed they're doing.
So again, 3rd caution. We have a little over 60 laps to go. Walsh has led every single lap so far. Not a lot of position changes as well to really point out, at least among the top 3. Looking back in the field, we have Paddock, who's made his way into the top 5 for that first caution. Moves up here, Boudon going on a charge. He's now in 10th. Thomas Zeiger, that started all the way back in 21st, has made his way to 13th due to other drivers' misfortune. So good run so far for TNT Racing. And it's just, I think right now it's just a matter of keeping it clean and waiting for this kind of long run to happen, getting through these first few laps. And you mentioned, it's the tone at the start that's going to set the pace of what this race was to come.
And it was an aggressive tone, or maybe a tone full of mistakes is the correct way of putting it. People weren't intentionally ending up in with each other, but a few preventable mistakes, and before you know it, we've had a bunch of caution periods. And what we can expect from this is that people will have more grip at the end. They'll be looking to use it, and we'll get a really aggressive attacking race from a few of these guys, which is almost the opposite of what Sheen Walsh would have wanted, to be honest. He's sitting at the front thinking, can we go? Can I try and manage my tires better than the guys behind me? But in P2, Valancino, P3, Eek, they're sat there thinking, this is great. I'm not going to have to think about my tire wear. I'm not going to have to think about conserving the grip. I can just attack when this safety car comes in and see if I can win this thing.
And again, let's mention, we're talking about these top 3 a lot, and this is just because, the form page nicely keeps track of all the stats. Valancino's got 6 top 5 finishes. 5 of those are wins. Pierre Bourdon has gotten 4 wins. 4 top 5 finishes, so he's still going to be a factor in that 21 machine, I think. And then Walsh and Eek have 4 and 3. So again, we're talking about those front 3 a lot just because they have been so good all week long. And, this is the broadcasted race. This is the time to show what you got, to put the money where your mouth is, so to speak.
Yeah, I can guarantee if I was doing well all week for whatever reason, God forbid, but if I was doing well all week and suddenly there was a broadcasted race, I'd immediately be in the wall. The pressure would most certainly get to me, which is why these guys are racing on the broadcast and not me.
One of the first races I actually ran in the Pro Mazda series was about last year in July, and it was an oval race at Richmond. I put in about 2 hours of practice. Dylan Coyle was the one on the call for this one. And there was a crash out of turn 4, and I panicked, and this is why I say, like, you can't really correct these cars, because I was trying to correct and avoid the crash. I spun myself out and went a lap down. So, yeah, don't worry, the pressure gets to everyone, including us commentators. As the lights are out on the pace car, Walsh is going to put it to the high side of turns 3 and 4. I'm going to get another restart. With the 19 going out of the race, we have 16 drivers on the lead lap. And the car ducks down to pit road, and we are green again from Iowa, already 2 wide behind. That's Turnbull and Pellerito. We were watching that fight last restart, and they're already getting underway and feisty. Pellerito able to hold on to that position. Turnbull's going to have to settle for 6th for now.
Turnbull got a lovely exit, though, coming out of the banking there. It's allowed him to get right underneath the diffuser of the 13 car, but getting under the diffuser is one thing. You need to try and get the exit, as he's done right there. That was really close. He pulls out the slipstream to the inside of turn number 1. For a moment, his rival disappears, and we've got another caution period. We did about 1 racing lap. We're going to have to see what's happened this time round.
Looked like it was Simon Fell in the 15, that bright-colored car. It's on the inside of Boudon, drifted up, and there goes Pierre as well, hard into the outside wall.
Another incidence of 2 into 1, you'd have to say. There was not a whole lot of space given from either driver. And when neither driver is willing to give space, that's when they come together.
And it was unfortunate, I think, for Boudon, because he had the outside line, and that 15 just drifted up in there. And that's also the point about losing that front arrow. If you lose that front arrow, you're going to get tight. It's hard to steer out of the car without getting the throttle.
It is, and of course, as a racing driver, they'll never want to get out of the throttle. They're never going to touch the brakes and just concede the position. It's not in their psyche. So he was sat there thinking, come on, turn, 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 there's nothing I can do. Because he just wasn't considering braking and conceding 3 positions an option.
So we now have the 15 and the 21 on pit road. That just leaves 14 drivers on the lead lap, and to make another caution period. And we mentioned this at the start, and you mentioned it as well. It's that tone of the race that sets, kind of how this race goes. And the tone was, it was going to be a little bit chaotic. And at the front, it's actually been very calm. Only Turnbull and Pellerito have been the 2 fighting. But kind of from 8th on back, it seems to be a lot of mistakes and a lot of calamity.
I reckon Balacino's just biding his time a little bit. Now, whether or not he would have been able to actually make the pass on Walsh is a whole other matter, but I reckon there's been a couple occasions where he maybe could have stuck his front wing inside for some sort of issue, and he went, you know what, not quite yet, let's just wait, let's keep the element of surprise, let's make sure that I know everything about Walsh, and Walsh knows nothing about me, which, to be honest, I'm completely on board with, because we've still got 55 laps to go.
55 laps. It looks like one car decided to come down the pit road, and that'll be Sean Ryan in the 14. He was running in the 13th position, and, well, it was only 13. There's only 14 cars in the lead lap, so you might as well come down, as is Lewis Incamer, who was running in 14th. You might as well come down and get some fresh tires while you're at it if you're already towards the rear, see if you can make up a few spots.
We spoke about this at the beginning of the show. That is a huge advantage, not just now, but until the end of the race, that'll pay them back. So there's a chance that these guys who might not have the out pace, the all-in sort of 1 lap, can I be quicker than Olshin Walsh? No, he can't. But over the course of a stint, you put fresh tires on halfway through it, you've got a chance. You've got a chance to come through the field because you'll just have more grip available to you.
And I'm wondering, looking back to that second caution that we had with the 16 machine pulling up in front of Aaron Roofs in the 8, if that's kind of the reason that happened, because the 16, and I mentioned it at that caution, was the only one to come down for fresh tires, and maybe the confidence got to him. So we'll have to, be careful about Sean Ryan and Lewis Incamer towards the rear of the field, but it's a good opportunity for them to really make up some spots.
It is. It is, for sure. They'll know what they've done as well. It's a conscious decision. They've not just come in for the sake of it. They know that their objective is to just wait and take advantage of the chaos from this point out. You know, somebody goes a little bit high, you'll have the grip to turn down underneath them and still get the traction. Somebody goes a little bit low, you might be able to drive all the way around the outside. And that sort of incredible overall grip will only last a couple laps before it is beginning to go. But you can take advantage of that as and when you need it, that sort of maximum sticking power. And it's enough for 3-4 positions, and that could be the difference between a couple positions in this championship. That's how close it is.
So the pace car goes lights out, and we have 14 drivers on the lead lap ready to take the restart. There are 4 drivers still in the garage getting repairs. Simon Fell and Pierre Bourdon, who are our latest victims of a caution. Jordan Ward, who spun up by himself in 3 and 4. Jeffrey Kingsfield, who was on that second caution, still getting repairs. We've lost Aaron Roofs. He is retired from the race after that second caution. William Pastor was dropping through the field like a rock. He has decided to retire the car. Frank Newen and Andrew Barry were on the first caution. So 8 cars several laps down, 4 still in the race trying to make up some time, and 14 on the lead lap, still with a shot of a good finish and potentially a victory. We ride on the pace car. It will duck down into pit road right about now. And Oseen Walsh, the Irish driver, is going to take the green flag. The 3rd restart of the day. This time Balanchino is a lot closer than he has been on these previous restarts. He's going to make a move to the inside. No. The Ohio driver remains in 2nd for now. And Eek has a bit of a swarm behind him. Turnbull and Proletio, they're still fighting. They're going to fight to the death, I think, for that 5th place position. As it looks like we're going to get at least 1 lap of green flag action into the books this time.
Pellicino, I think once again had the opportunity to go for it, decided against sticking his nose in. There's a wonderful 3-way battle further down the field here. That's going to get tight. Is it Anderson trying to hold it around the outside, but instead he's actually going to get mugged potentially by Eichenhammer coming down the inside in that lovely 16 machine. That's a well thought out move, that is.
That was actually the 14 machine of Sean Reiner. Remember, he is on fresh tires. Let's see how far he can get through the field. As we look back in the midfield, here's Michael Holler with a big run on Servi Seppa, but nowhere to go. And now Sudik is going to look to the outside, and we have a spinner down on the inside. And I believe that was Jordan Ward, who was trying to return to the racing line, just completely lost it on the inside.
That's a tricky one. If that proves to be what it is, it'll be as simple as getting caught out on cold tires. As you come out the pits, you got to remember the last racing lap you did, even though it was a while ago, would have been on warm tires. That would have been you really going at it. You come out the pits, they're not warm, and they're not going to stick in the same way that your old set did.
And I'm wondering if he's actually collected a few other members here as the 19 machine, because there he goes. He loses it on the inside. And I believe he's going to, right there, there it is, the 20 and, the 22, Anderson and Inkhammer slamming hard into the 19 machine. Woof. I believe that was Simon Fell, who also just came out of the pit road, just emerging onto the scene.
You would be less than impressed, I think, is the polite way of putting it. If you were on the lead lap racing away and somebody just out the pit spun in front of you and took you and the person you were racing out, for that matter, you know, you see the car that you were racing get taken out, you're thinking, that's a shame, but at least it's a free position. Oh, and I've gone with him. And suddenly your heart sinks.
And I'm sure there's probably some not nice words being exchanged, as here is Nick Anderson. He sees the smoke, he lets up, and there's just nothing he can do. And then here's Inkenhammer. Oh. Again, we say this time and time again. Sometimes we are glad in the virtual world and not in the real world, because a real crash like that at the exit of Iowa, oof, that could have catastrophic consequences. But here, thankfully all virtual, but lengthy repairs. I think Anderson has already parked the car. He's done for the day. Inkenhammer still on pit road, maybe hoping to get a few laps in.
Yeah, I can fully understand just going, nah, that's enough for this evening. I'm going to go to bed. That's a really, really rough scenario to get caught up in. The particular problem, of course, was there was just smoke everywhere. So he's thinking, I could go low, but that's where all the smoke is. If I go high, I'm going to spin out. So instead, he just decided to gamble, stay where he was, and it turns out that's exactly where the stationary car was.
And the problem is, as well, the exit of turn 4 at Iowa, personally, I think is actually one of the trickiest parts of the racetrack, the way it comes onto that banking. The rear end wants to step out so much. There's not much you can do. There's not many sudden movements you can get into, you know, on a way out. And again, with all that smoke, like, who knows where that car was? Poor Anderson just had to take a guess.
He took a guess, and he took it bravely, to be fair to him. You know, if that pays off, we're going, wow, look how brave he was. He kept it near enough flat through the smoke, and now he's gained a couple positions as the people ahead of him lifted. Just turns out that that's not the scenario that played out, and instead he ended up getting caught out by the spinning traffic. There's two distinct packs here under the safety car, isn't there? What's happened?
I wonder if there's some tire conservation, maybe some gangsmanship, or maybe just a bit of an issue with sorting out where people were when the caution came out. Because remember, Pellerito and Turnbull have been fighting for the past few laps, as did Seppa and Holier and Sudik. So I'm wondering if there's just a little confusion on where people are, or if there's just people saving fuel. One of the two. Maybe people being a little annoyed about having to do some pace lap driving in Iowa. Reminds them of maybe the interstate. After running through the interstate in Iowa, there's really not much to see. This is a little bit more interesting, I'd say.
Yeah, a high percentage of this race under the safety car so far, though, I would say. It's maybe not what the drivers were hoping for on their Friday evening or Friday afternoon, but I'm sure we'll get some fantastic racing in a moment. Eventually, there won't be enough cars to have these collisions, you know. The car density will be low enough that the few remaining guys will be able to race. Field closes up once again. I think Ike, or Eek rather, maybe had a little bit of a moment, because we can see he's hopping in and out all the time, and if he goes out and nobody knows where he is, there's a reasonable percentage of the chance that everyone else is just going to be a little bit cautious, drop back, and then when they can see him again, they'll close back up to the safety car.
We're coming around for our 5th restart of the race, and unfortunately, we've had 17 green flag laps and 23 laps behind the pace car. We have 44 remaining when we come back and take the green. And a reminder, last week as well, we saw a very high attrition rate. Only 12 cars finished on the lead lap, and we had a full field of 24 at Monza. I think it's just this time with the full safety cars, we get to finally see the attrition rate and finally see what all goes on behind the leaders. As now the top 3 deciding when to go. Balancino, a good job, and having to go to the inside. Is that one machine to try and cut him off?
Really aggressive. Alonso, a slice across the front of Balancino's nose there for Machine Walsh. But it did its job. Balancino may have lifted just a moment, and once again, Walsh begins to try and extend the gap because Balancino's not quite aggressive enough on the restart.
I think Balancino was trying to time when Walsh was going to go, and Walsh waited later than normal as one lap complete, and we're back underneath the safety car. As Walsh leads that lap, that was probably Balancino's best chance maybe to get the lead that he's had in a little bit of time. As we slow up and wait for the iRacing pace car to catch up. Here's Sean Ryan, the last car on the lead lap in the 14 machine. What happens? Just the rear end going around. How did he not hit the wall?
Tell you what, it's unfortunate to lose it on your own, but if you're going to do it, you got to save it as stylishly as Sean Ryan did. Full pirouette, very, very close to the wall, but never in it. Wonderful, wonderful car control.
So our 6th caution of the day, and we're just about halfway through the race. Thank you for tuning in this evening on RaceSpotTV. Again, a reminder, my name is Jonathan Burke. Alongside me is Tom Davis. We're under our 6th caution of the day here at the Pro Mazda race at Iowa. I'm just going to say, throughout the week, at least in this top split, it has not been this way. It has been a very clean race, only 3 to 4 cautions. But right now, just a case of yellow fever here. As we are under our 6th, we have lost a total of about 5 to 6 cars. Now retired from this race, only 12 are on the lead lap from the 22 that started.
We sometimes have a little bit of a joke, a little bet almost, about how many caution periods are we going to get, what percentage of the race is going to be yellow whenever we come to an oval, all that sort of stuff, just messing about. But I don't think any of us anticipated this. This is This is on a whole other level of caution period, this is.
I definitely didn't participate in this. I'd researched kind of all of the race sessions that had taken place through the week for the Pro Monster group. The highest amount of cautions seen was 9, and that was in a bottom split on Monday evening. So one of the first days of action, but since then, mainly this top split has been pretty clean. The highest I saw was 6, and then we were already at 6 when we've gotten splits. When it hasn't been split, the highest has been 8.
I think we're going for the record. try and get the 11th. Hit double figures.
I'm certainly hoping now, because again, Iowa, it is such a great track for open wheel racing for oval cars. I feel like it unfortunately left off the IndyCar schedule this year and the Pro Monza schedule, so I'm a little sad to see no action, and even the NASCAR schedule, Iowa, off the racing schedule. So I'm a little sad, and I was really hoping for a good race, and I feel like we're getting it out front. We're getting this good tactical race between these top 4 runners. Walsh, Belluccio, Eek, and Paddock. They've all had good top weeks. They've all had good top 5 finishes. We're having a good fight for 5th place. It's just these little issues towards the rear of the field.
You gotta feel like every single time there's a restart, though, it favors Ballicino. He's got more opportunity to be aggressive. He can learn about Ashin's tactics every single time he goes for the restart, and eventually you feel like the number 3 is going to have the upper hand just enough to get the overlap, and then you'd say he's got a reasonable chance of getting the overtake done, because he does look like the quicker of the 2.
And this also kind of negates that tire issue we were having earlier. When you've only run about 18 laps of the 45 we've run under green so far, you're going to have some tire wear, but you're not going to have as much as maybe you were anticipating.
Yeah, I mean, more than half of this race has been under caution, so we were considering a long stint on the tires. We're now looking at potentially 2/3 of that maximum. So suddenly it's looking pretty normal for the tires if you can just push all the way all the time. And for some drivers, that's brilliant. You know, the drivers with the outrace pace are thinking, right, this is great. I can just use my pace all the time and not have to worry about anything. For the drivers who like to be clever, try and capitalize on mistakes or over-aggression from other people, they're going to lose it.
And again, I pointed out last week as well at Monza, we saw in that first couple laps, after the first 2 laps, we had a total of 10 cars on pit road due to incidents, either retiring or getting repairs, and that was just a 1-lap incident. This race has been kind of spread out. We've yet to hit that attrition rate. We do have a handful of cars lapped down. We got 10 total cars that are either off the lead lap or have retired. Let's see what the remaining 38 laps are going to hold. As lights are out in the pace car, it's going to duck down to pit road. And for the 6th time today, we will get a restart from Olseen Walsh. He gets a good jump. This time, Ballicino looking to the inside. You can see we're getting more and more aggressive each restart. Everyone was ducking to the inside, trying to find a way around. We stay single file for the time being. Walsh continues to lead. Ballicino under no threat. Andreas Eek is actually going to have to be worried. Everett Paddock got a good jump. He's lurking in that 4th position. And I mentioned the TNT Racing driver. Again, we're not seeing the usual suspects that you do in the road racing out here today, but TNT still proving its power. They have Paddock in 4th position, and it looks like Zyger has picked his way all the way to 9th. So, good run for them.
Really good run for them. Here is the 9 car, that's Turnbull. He's applying pressure once again to his old friend Chandler Pellerito. Pellerito going a little bit high, potentially that could cost him just a moment to get on the power, and as a result the 9's coming, tucked into the slipstream now as they duck down the hill once again. Not quite able to get that nose alongside yet.
Now, this is the closest I see Canada and Michigan together on screen. Besides, when we go to Belle Isle for IndyCar as well as iRacing events, when they're going to be side-by-side. Turnbull, he's just trying to get a run off the corner, but the problem is he's having to sacrifice a lot of that speed to let up and give that room back to Pellerito.
And as you can see in that little graphic, the 2 behind, Holler and Sudik, they're not exactly far away. So the moment these 2 go side-by-side, cost themselves a tenth of a second. This isn't a duel. This is going to be a 4-way scrap.
And I'm wondering if Pellerito's struggling as well. He's almost a full second away for Everett Paddock in 4th position, as there goes Turnbull to the inside. Is he going to be able to get clear of the 13 machine? No, he has to get out of it. Going to remain side by side. And you mentioned Hollier and Sudik already. Well, they're deciding to make their force known here. Here comes Holier to the inside, unable to get a move. This is great racing from this mid-pack.
Keep your eye on Sudik. He's the one who's had clean air all the way through the past couple corners. He's got to go high, though, which isn't going to work. And Holler, actually, with a low line, might be the one to take advantage. But no, they all go line astern once again. For just a split second, they fan out. Now it's Sudik who's got the low line. He's down the inside of Holler. Can he take advantage of it this time? Maybe. He's going to have an overlap into turn 1, I reckon.
Yep, chooses to back out of it this time. I think he's playing a bit more patient. I think he kind of knows that 13 is falling off of Pellerito, and he's struggling. So there's going to be a chance in the next few laps to get Holier and as well maybe get a shot at Turnbull. Turnbull setting some quick lap times, but he's definitely not the quickest. 21.3 last time around from Everett Paddock. He's making himself known to the top 3 that, hey, I am still in contention for a podium and maybe a win here.
Yeah, Paddock was very, very quick on the last lap, and actually your top 4 covered by under a second, so they're all in the hunt for it. These guys are also exceptionally close. We're right on board with Alan Ballacino then. He's not quite had the aggression, maybe the confidence to go through the move, but he's certainly got the pace to stick with Walsh at this stage.
Yeah, so top 3, it goes Ireland, Ohio, and Finland. Wide range of countries, wide range of geographies and backgrounds, wide range of skill, all out front. And a reminder, don't forget about Everett Paddock, the TNT machine. He's gotten a couple top 5s already this week, and he's going to be, I think, the dark horse when it comes to the end here. He's getting triple draft down these straightaways. And as well, he's not losing too much time, but being so close to the car in front, as already Balancino is super close to Walsh. Walsh already getting defensive.
Paddock's in that spot that a lot of drivers just love to be in, where they actually don't have to do anything. The 3 ahead of him are going to fight because every single one of those 3 wants to win the race. And when they start to fight, he'll pick up a couple positions for free. He can just wait and let the other guys show their hand before he chooses what he wants to do.
Well, now Balancino has to get defensive because the Finnish driver Vika is on his rear tail. And maybe the 2 machine can make a move for P2. Paddock again lurking behind. Longest green flag run we've had, thankfully. Looks like we've been cured of the yellow fever. So we're going to come around. It's 26 laps to go. Anyone's game still.
Walsh actually looked like the slowest of this bunch off the final corner, which will be a little bit worrying as we get towards the final stages if he's already losing the rear end confidence. Maybe it's not traction yet, but just the assuredness he had early on in the race to step on the gas and know it's going to stick. That doesn't quite seem to be there that time around.
I'm wondering if the tires are starting to play a little bit of a factor. He's lost about a tenth or 2 compared to their earlier pace in the race, but they're still down in the 21.5s. This top 4, again, you mentioned it, you can put them under a blanket, separated by almost less than half a second. Eek going wide may give an opportunity to Paddock. Nope. Just making sure they didn't have an issue that happened earlier of a slow car in the bottom of the racetrack spinning out in front of him.
Paddock's the one that looks comfortable here, isn't it? Everyone else is just beginning to understeer, maybe drift the rear end just a smidge on the exit. Paddock's car perfectly in line, following his line, putting the car exactly where he wants it, and at this stage in the race, you'd have to say he's almost favourite to take the win if he's really got that much confidence and grip.
And it's not that Everett Paddock is not a winning driver. He actually did win a race this week here at Iowa. He won one 2 days ago in just 1 split. Started 3rd, finished in 1st. The TNT racing driver is familiar with victory lane, but maybe not here on the broadcasted races, as he tends to be kind of down in that mid-pack group. And this is a good chance to shine, as Eek was trying to find a way around Balancino, not able to send it down to the inside, and maybe this 3 car is getting too defensive as Walsh has a little bit more of a comfort gap now.
We say comfort gap, it's still hovering around about 0.3 of a second, which I guess in oval racing might make you comfortable. I know I'd still be absolutely terrified of Balancino having a little bit of a go, but whilst Balancino's looking in his mirrors, he's not looking forward, and that certainly suits Walsh.
To say it's about as nice of a comfort gap as being able to sleep maybe on a prison mattress later on in the evening. Maybe not the regular bed, but it's at least comfortable. It'll get you through the night. It looks like something else is going to play a factor is lap traffic. That is the 16 machine of Jeffrey Kongsfield that does pull out of the way. Good respectful racing from him, just lets the leaders fight them out, and Walsh has been able to pull out a little bit of a gap, almost half a second, and now it looks like Valentino's the car that's been struggling.
And this puts Ike in an awkward position because we know that Valentino has had the pace to go with Walsh. So do you back off your attack, just let this group of three close back up to the leader? Or do you say, no, I think you're the issue here. You're holding me back. I'm going to force the move and then go after Walsh. It seems like just for a couple of corners he eased off, and that gap immediately comes back down with a slipstream that's now sitting 2 to 3 tenths, which would be far more comfortable for these guys second, third, and fourth.
And the problem he also has is he's getting a lot of understeer, probably from in front, as we go in, unfortunately, for the 7th time today. And on the timing screen, it looks like it's Theodore Burns who has had an issue, as well as maybe the 22 of Lucas Inkammer. So we'll slow them all down, gather up behind the pace car. And we'll get to see what has happened here. RaceSpotTV replay, and it is Lucas Inkammer actually that came down to pit road, and he has spun around.
Oh, he connects.
This was right behind the leaders.
Well. Yeah, the leaders are quite happy that they got through that traffic because once again, we saw somebody lose it, somebody else try to avoid it, and just have absolutely no chance. So, Inkammer gonna be unhappy with that one. Koenigsfeld, you'll feel, will be even less happy.
They're both down back on pit road for lengthy repairs. And it's not like those drivers have also had their issues throughout the day, as we have 16 laps remaining. The 22 machine was 27 laps behind Walsh. Koenigsfeld was 22. They were just trying to get some iRating and maybe some safety rating to give them a little bit of a buffer after a bad day, but 22 has since retired. And only Jeffrey Koenigsfeld is the one remaining on pit road. We have 12 cars on the lead lap, and I think simultaneously that Theodore Burns had some sort of issue because he was running in about 10th, and then he all of a sudden dropped to 12th. So I'm wondering if he just had to check up due to that accident, or if he had a little bit of a moment and just fell a few places. But anyway, he still runs. We have lost Anderson, Jordan Ward, Aaron Roos, Julian Pastor, Frank Newen, and Andrew Barry. This pit road is open, and this is interesting right here. Michael Holler has come down pit road from running in about the 6th position.
Well, here's what we were talking about. We'll probably have somewhere between 13 and 14 laps to go when we get the green flag. He'll put on fresh tires. He'll come out. He should be the quickest car on track with that new rubber. It'll be a case of how many cars can he overtake. He might even get up to that lead battle.
Yeah, it really depends on kind of the pace of the leaders out front. And I think Bellicino was struggling a little bit, the Ohioan driver, but he wasn't falling off terribly. Walsh was still in distance. I'm wondering if it was just he was feeling the pressure from Eek behind.
Yeah, and even if Eek's not making a move, when you're in that spot with the pressure coming, you don't want to make a mistake. You know, you want the other guy to at least overtake you. You don't just want to drift a little bit wide and let him through. So inherently, you'll just lose a little bit of the edge. You'll just be on the throttle just a split second later to make sure you don't oversteer. You'll be coming into the corner just a little bit slower to make sure you don't go deep, and that'll open up that tiny, tiny gap that you won't notice on a corner-by-corner basis, but as we saw over a number of laps, it did go up by a couple tenths.
Lights are still on the pace car. Again, thank you for joining with us tonight. It has unfortunately been a little bit of a rough one to kind of say. We've had a case of yellow fever in that middle portion of the race, but we got some green flag action on that last run, and we've kind of shown we have a 4-car race up front. Oseen Walsh and Andreas Seekar, the 2 oval regulars. They've been running ovals almost every single time we've come to an oval track for a broadcast, and they've been the 2 dominant cars. They're first and third. Ohio driver Alan Bellacino rounding out in second of the podium. TNT's Everett Paddock from the Midwest Club. This is a hometown track for him as well. Quietly in fourth, looking to make a move. Then we go back to that midfield. Jared Turnbull and Chandler Pellerito have been fighting all day in Canada and Michigan in the battle for who's going to get the edge of the top 5. Nicholas Suduk is lurking in 7th, as is the ever-quiet Serbi Seppa from Finland in 8th. Thomas Zeiger for TNT Racing is in 9th, and Sean Ryan is currently in 10th. Michael Holder, Theodore Burns just came off of the pit lane. They have fresh rubber in 11th and 12th. As Simon Fell and Pierre Boudon each are about a little over 10 laps down after getting involved in a caution at the midway point of this race. They're in 13th and 14th, still chugging along. We've lost about 8 drivers from this race so far as we look to go back under green. The pace car coming down this time. When will Walsh jump? He jumps pretty good, but here comes that 3 machine already looking. He's going to go all the way down to the banking to prevent a move. Aggressive driving from the Irish driver.
Once again, though, he holds it, and the top 2 break away similar to how they did at the very, very first start of this one. Eek and Paddock, they're going to be looking to close up that gap because we know that first and second have the pace, and immediately they do that. Eek gets a fantastic exit out the final corner, brings Paddock with him, and we're into, well, potentially first, then second and third, then fourth at the moment.
Eek is now catching the back of Valancino. That was probably Valancino's maybe best opportunity, I think, to make a dive underneath Olseen Walsh, but it wasn't meant to be. Walsh got very aggressive. Using that inner part of the track, you don't normally see a car down there.
No, and the grip levels down there will reflect that. So it was bold from Walsh, but it worked out once again. Valancino not aggressive enough to go for the move. Maybe that time I don't think it was on, but if he doesn't get to the front of this one in the end, he'll be regretting not having gone for a couple of those 50-50s earlier on.
But now this is viewing back in the pack at the moment. This is the 17 trying to make his way up through the field after he just pitted. That's Sean Ryan, who's had a spin or 2 on his own, trying to hold on right now on the edge of the top 10. He's got Serbi Seppa and Thomas Zeiger for company. He's going to look to the inside of the finished driver. Can he make a move here? Seppa gives him the space. Now what can Zeiger do? Can he keep that TNT machine in the top 10, or are these guys on fresh tires going to be too much for him to handle?
I'm keeping my eye on Haller just in the back of the shot. He, of course, came in during that last pace car period, got on the fresh rubber, and you can even see on the exit of that one, he's just able to hold a tighter line to have a little bit of a look without costing himself any exit speed. So you know that he's lurking, knowing that 4 positions are up for grabs in the course of potentially just 1 lap.
Zeiger trying to hang on to the edge of the top 10. He falls to 10th now. Aggressive move, almost took his front wing off on the rear tire of that 14 machine. He's going to look back into the inside of Ryan, but now on the outside, he's going to have Theodore Burns for company, as well as Michael Haller looking to the inside.
Here comes Haller. He was looking for the first one there, but again, a little bit of cautiousness from the guys. Maybe the number of caution periods is just getting to their mindset a little bit. They don't want to be the person to cause the next one. Now Haller's going to go to the inside, make it 3 abreast, just on the outskirts of the top 10. He should get at least one, potentially both of these guys on the exit.
And Haller not fully clear yet of Thomas Zeiger, but I'm thinking that fresh rubber, yep, puts him ahead right there as Zeiger falls to 12th. Last car on the lead lap. Nope. Ducks back inside. And he's going to try and get a position here. We have 4 laps remaining. Olseen Walsh has out front, has currently led them all and has a nice gap. Dallin Valancino, Haller back to the inside. Zeiger's hanging on for dear life. He's trying. I mean, this is just for 11th and 12th place, but it means a decent amount of I rating and safety rating for these 2 drivers.
It does, and it's also the knowledge that you want the top 10, and if somebody spins out on the last lap and you're in 12th, you're not going to get it. If you're in 11th, then you're in the prime position to take advantage of that and get yourself into the perfect top 10 that is always such a boost to these guys.
2 laps remaining. Olseen Walsh has led from the drop of the green flag. Valancino is still in second. Ike, I think, is going to have to deal with trying to hang on to the edge of the podium. He's going to have the Midwest Club Racing driver and the TNT machine of Everett Paddock right behind him. The white flag is out in the air for Oisin Walsh. The Irish driver has led from the green flag, has held off every restart charge from Alan Balancino behind, and it looks like the number 1 is going to get P1 on the exit of turn 4. Oisin Walsh wins in Iowa. Balancino is in second position, and Andreas Eek rounds out the podium. Paddock in fourth. And that fight for 11th and 12th, the last car in the lead lap fight, Zeiger holds off Michael Haller. And it was a lovely fight between these two at the end. And the fireworks go off in turn 3. Not the climactic ending I was expecting after that huge fight we saw kind of in that middle run, but still a close one. Oisin Walsh from Ireland is able to take it just a little over half a second from Alan Balancino. Andreas Eek rounding out the podium again. Everett Paddock in fourth. Jared Turnbull in fifth. And Chandler Pellerito in sixth. They had a fight all the way to the end. Nicholas Suduk in seventh. Sergey Seppa in eighth. Sean Ryan in ninth. And Theodore Burns rounding out the top 10. I mentioned there were several drivers from Illinois, and Michael Haller rounding out the lead lap cars was from Illinois in 12th. Thomas Zeiger and TNT right ahead of him in 11th. And then here's the kind of the fallen drivers. Simon Fell and Pierre Bourdon had an issue coming out of turn 4, collected each other. They are 13th and 14th respectively. Jeffrey Klingsfield and Lucas Inkammer were the last caution. They collided in turns 3 and 4, but they've also had issues throughout the race, getting involved in several other incidents, 15th and 16th. Nicholas Anderson and a car spin out in front of him, nowhere to go in 17th. Jordan Ward spun out by himself, putting him several laps down, then spun out again, collecting Anderson in 18th. Aaron Roofs was kind of a part of a little bit of a collision. The 16 came up in front of him, nowhere for him to go, is in 19th. Julian Pastor, we saw him falling off the pace kind of mysteriously towards the beginning of the race, wondering if there was some sort of issue with the car. He is in 20th. And it seems like a long time ago that Frank Nguyen and Andrew Barry were tangling on the exit of turn 2 for the first caution of the day. Both unfortunately retired in lap 4. And that rounds out your field of 22. And Tom, it was a chaotic fun one that, you know, survival seemed to be kind of the name of the game, but definitely had its interesting and really intense moments. I really thought that long green flag run we got right before that last caution was the best we saw in the top 4 all day.
Yeah, it was an odd one. We had all the caution, all the chaos, and yet at the front, Shane Walsh pulled off the perfect race. If you ever want to know how to cope with the pressure, then apparently you should go ask Shane, because he had to do restart after restart after restart. And then he still had to hold off on a long attack from 3 cars behind him in the final stages. He did all of it perfectly, ended up leading every single lap of the race, so a very good win for him.
And he may not be thinking about the overall championship, but definitely when it comes to just the oval standings, I think Oisin is probably going to be one of the favorites. As you know, this is the first oval on the schedule. We're going to take a look at it in just a moment here, as we have 2 more. We have Phoenix and USA Speedway. Both are going to be interesting. We saw Phoenix was a race last season that played out very similar to this one. There was a lot of chaos, a lot of drama. But in that Phoenix, we saw a lot of drama at the front of the field. Here we saw a lot of drama at the rear. So that one's going to be kind of a mystery. And then USA Speedway we saw last season as well. A surprise winner in Jason Owens, one of the organizers of the whole community, coming out and getting a win. So we still got these other 2 ovals that are going to be big question marks on the schedule.
We do, but I would argue that the biggest question mark on the schedule is coming next week. We're going to the Nordschleife with these fantastic Indy Pro 2000 machines, and I cannot wait to see how that plays out.
We're going to take a 2-week spring break kind of in Germany with Nordschleife and the Hockenheim Ring. I'm excited because I don't think that's a track we've seen in Pro Monsters at the Nordschleife at all. And then Hockenheim Ring, a newer one on the service. It's famous in Europe for its great action and racing. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to be in for some really good treats. We saw at Monza, there was a lot of chaos, but like 0.005 was what that victory margin was at Monza. I can't imagine what these next 2 weeks are going to bring.
Just every single bit. but a chance that it's going to be as close as that. Really, really fantastic circuits. Hockenheimring is king of the switchbacks, so expect plenty of kind of toing and froing in the order. And the Nordschleife can give us anything. You name it, it could happen at the Nordschleife. So I have no idea how to predict next week, and I'm not even going to try.
It's going to be an interesting one. Only 5 laps as well. And qualifying will not be part of the main race schedule. It's going to be an hour before. It's going to be in the 15 minutes beforehand at 4. And then the race will be at 4:15. So a little bit of a different format for us as well. And it's going to be entertaining. We'll see what that entails. A reminder, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you are to get notifications. If you'd like to follow this series, or even if you'd like to follow any other series. I know we have Sports Car SEO from Road America this weekend. We have a couple big events we always cover, as well as some of the iRacing special events. So a reminder to watch those, as well as the Krevenik 12 Hours of Spa is this weekend. There's a lot of good action this weekend to kick off kind of our spring port of the schedule. But that's going to wrap us up here from the fields of Iowa. An intense, a dramatic race, but Oisin Walsh was able to come out king on top. And we'll come back next week from Germany in the Nordschleife, that long course. What drama can that bring us? So long for myself, for Tom Davis, for our production crew of Tyler Maxton, and we'll see you all next week for round 4.